We live in a culture obsessed with strategy. Master the game. Stay 3 steps ahead. Never let them see you sweat. There's something seductive about the idea of being that cool and detached observer. The person who sees all the strings while everyone else is tangled up in them. The Machiavellian strategist. The one who's always in control. We're told this is what psychological strength looks like. But what if I told you that this relentless need to scan, predict, and outsmart everyone in the room isn't actually a sign of power? What if it's a symptom of a deep and unhealed wound? What if the person who's always watching for the next threat isn't a master of their environment, but a prisoner of their own nervous system? Welcome to the Inverse Mind. Today, we're diving into the psychological reality of hypervigilance. We're going to deconstruct why the need to control is often a trauma response, how it sabotages your ability to truly connect with others, and why real power isn't found in outmaneuvering the world, but in finding the safety to stop fighting it. Let's begin. Picture a soldier returning from a war zone. They're back in their quiet suburban home, but their body doesn't know it yet. Every time a car backfires, their heart races. When they walk into a restaurant, they immediately scan for exits and position themselves with their back to the wall. They're constantly assessing for danger, even when there is none. This is hypervigilance in its most recognized form. But here's the thing, hypervigilance doesn't just happen on battlefields. It happens in childhood homes where a parent's mood was completely unpredictable. It happens in relationships where emotional safety was used as a bargaining chip. For many people, the war zone was their formative years. And they became what I call a sentinel. Someone whose entire psychological structure is built around anticipating the next attack. Now, this isn't a conscious choice. It's a biological directive. When someone experiences chronic stress or trauma, their brain's fear center, the amygdala, becomes permanently enlarged and hypersensitive. It's like the brain's smoke detector has been rewired to go off not just when there's a fire, but when someone lights a match 3 rooms away. For the hypervigilant person, the world isn't a place to be experienced. It's a puzzle to be solved before it can hurt them. This shows up in 2 key patterns. The scanning protocol. They don't just enter a room, they read it. They're analyzing micro-expressions on their boss's face, the exact tone of their partner's voice, the shifting dynamics in a group conversation. They're hunting for tells, subtle signs of rejection, betrayal, or aggression. The prediction addiction is when their brain is running constant simulations of the future, trying to predict every possible negative outcome so they can neutralize it before it happens. They believe if they can just figure it out first, they can control the damage. To an outside observer, this person might seem incredibly perceptive, even brilliant. They seem to know what you're going to say before you say it. They always have a plan B, C, and D ready. But this isn't the cool detachment of a master strategist. It's the frantic energy of someone who's terrified of being caught off guard. The sentinel isn't winning the game. They're just trying to survive the next turn. So what's really driving this behavior? The core drive of the hypervigilant person isn't power. It's safety. But because true, internal safety feels impossible to them, they substitute it with something else, control. Think about it. If you grow up in an environment where you're powerless, where you're too small, too young, or too dependent to change your circumstances, your brain learns a critical lesson. Survival depends on managing the external world. You learn that if you can just outsmart your volatile parent, or outperform your critical teacher, you can buy yourself a temporary moment of peace. As an adult, this belief system translates into, if I can just control all the variables, I'll finally be safe. This creates 2 distinct patterns. The chess player mindset, so every interaction becomes a chess match. Their partner, their boss, their friends, they're all pieces on a board to be maneuvered. They don't listen to understand, they listen to gain leverage. They don't share feelings to connect. They share information to manage your perception of them. The information hoarder. They believe knowledge is the ultimate shield. They become obsessive collectors of data about the people around them, convinced that the more they know, the less they can be hurt. This is why silence feels so powerful to them. When they're silent, they're gathering intelligence. When they speak, they're giving it away. But here's where we hit a profound paradox. The harder they try to control their environment to feel safe, the less safe they actually become. Why? Because you cannot control other people. You cannot predict the future. By tying their sense of safety to an uncontrollable external world, they guarantee they'll remain in a state of chronic anxiety. Here's the inverse truth: control is not safety. Control is an exhausting and never-ending job that requires you to be on guard 24/7. True safety is the ability to relinquish control, to know you can handle whatever happens, even if you didn't predict it. The hypervigilant person is so busy building walls that they've forgotten how to build a foundation. To maintain this level of control, the hypervigilant person must never let their true self be seen. Their authentic emotions, fear, sadness, or neediness, are viewed as liabilities, cracks in the armor that an enemy could exploit. So they cultivate what I call the mask, a persona designed to be invulnerable. The mask of the stoic. They adopt the persona of the unshakable rock. They never complain, never cry, and treat their own feelings with clinical detachment. They believe if they don't feel the pain can't hurt them. The mask of the charmer. Others become master manipulators, using charm, wit, and agreeableness to disarm potential threats. They become a mirror, reflecting back whatever the other person wants to see. This isn't genuine connection, it's camouflage. The modern trend of glorifying Machiavellian behavior? It's essentially a tutorial in perfecting this mask. It teaches people that vulnerability is weakness and that the only way to win is to become a performance artist in your own life. But here's the cost. The deep tragedy of the hypervigilant life. You cannot be loved inside the mask. Love requires being seen. It requires the terrifying act of dropping your guard and saying, "This is who I am, flaws and all." The hypervigilant person can't do this. They're so terrified of rejection that they reject themselves first, by hiding behind a performance. They may be admired for their competence. They may be feared for their strategic mind. They may be desired for their charm. But they are almost never truly known. They live in a self-imposed solitary confinement, surrounded by people who love a character they're playing. Their power is a lonely one. It's the power of a king sitting in an impregnable fortress, realizing too late that the walls he built to keep enemies out have also kept everyone else out, too. While the hypervigilant mind is busy playing three-dimensional chess, the body is paying the price. You cannot run a human nervous system on red alert forever without consequences. Hypervigilance is a state of chronic sympathetic nervous system activation. The body is constantly flooded with stress hormones, cortisol and adrenaline. It's prepared to fight or flee at a moment's notice, even when the only threat is an awkward silence at a dinner party. The physical toll. This leads to a cascade of issues that many high-performing strategists ignore. Chronic fatigue, digestive problems like IBS, tension headaches, jaw clenching, and a devastated immune system. Their body is literally burning itself out from the inside. The crash is because they can't regulate their nervous system down to a state of rest. They often rely on external substances to do it for them. This is why we see such high rates of addiction to alcohol, drugs, work, or high-risk behaviors among people who fit this profile. They're not seeking pleasure. They're seeking an off switch for the relentless scanning of their own minds. Here's the inverse perspective. Your need to outsmart everyone isn't making you stronger. It's slowly killing you. Your body isn't a machine you can override with sheer willpower. It's a biological system with limits, and the check engine light has been flashing for years. True strength isn't about ignoring those signals. It's about having the courage to listen to them. So if the Machiavellian ideal is a trauma response, what's the alternative? How does the sentinel put down their weapon and come home? The journey out of hypervigilance isn't about learning more strategies to control the world. It's about unlearning the deep-seated belief that the world is inherently dangerous and that you're inherently helpless without your defenses. It's a move from what I call defensive power to authentic power. Defensive power is the power of the mask. It's the ability to manipulate, to hide, and to avoid pain. But it's brittle. One crack, and it shatters. Authentic power is the ability to be in the presence of uncertainty and not fall apart. It's knowing that you can be hurt, you can be betrayed, and you'll still be okay. It's the power of an integrated self that doesn't need to win every interaction to feel safe. Here's the roadmap for that transformation. Step 1. Recognize the scanning as an anxiety symptom. The first step is awareness. You have to stop congratulating yourself for being perceptive and start recognizing your compulsive scanning as a symptom of anxiety. When you catch yourself trying to read the room or predict someone's motives, pause. Ask yourself, what am I afraid is about to happen? What am I trying to prevent? Label it for what it is, a fear response, not a superpower. Step 2. Befriend your nervous system. You cannot think your way out of a physiological state. You have to show your body that it's safe. This is where somatic practices come in. Grounding. When you feel the urge to scan, bring your attention into your physical body. Feel your feet on the floor. Feel the breath in your lungs. Name 5 things you can see, 4 you can feel, 3 you can hear. This pulls your brain out of the future tense, what if, and into the present tense. What is? Co-regulation. The hypervigilant person is used to regulating themselves in isolation. But healing happens in connection. Find safe people, a therapist, or a trusted friend, who can stay calm when you're anxious. Their regulated nervous system can act as a tuning fork for your own, teaching your body what safety feels like in the presence of another person. Step 3. Practice strategic vulnerability. You don't have to burn your mask and walk naked into the world tomorrow. Start with what I call strategic vulnerability. Test the waters, share a small genuine feeling with someone safe. Admit to a minor mistake. State a preference without defending it. Observe the outcome, watch what happens. Does the world end? Does the other person attack you? Most of the time, the answer will be no. In fact, they'll likely feel closer to you. Your brain needs this new data to begin rewiring its beliefs about the danger of connection. Step 4. Grieve the loss of the illusion. This is the hardest part. You have to grieve the fact that you will never be able to control the world. You have to accept that pain and betrayal are possibilities you cannot outsmart. But in that grief, there's freedom. When you stop trying to be the master of the universe, you get to be a human being living in it. You get to trade the exhausting safety of the bunker for the messy, risky, and beautiful reality of the open air. The next time you see a video promising to teach you how to outsmart 90% of people, I want you to pause. I want you to see the hidden pain behind that promise. I want you to see the terrified child who thinks they have to be a grandmaster just to be allowed to sit at the table. True power isn't about having the perfect defense. True power is having a self so solid that you no longer need to defend it. It's the quiet strength of knowing that your worth is not up for negotiation, no matter what anyone else does or says. The Machiavellian is playing a game they can never win, because the prize they're seeking, safety, isn't on the board. It's already inside them, waiting for them to stop fighting long enough to find it. If you're tired of being the sentinel, if you're ready to lay down your arms and find a different kind of strength, then subscribe to the Inverse Mind. We're here to help you map the terrain of your own mind, not to help you build higher walls, but to help you find the doors you locked a long time ago. I want to hear from you in the comments. In what ways has your need to be in control actually made you feel less safe? Let's share our stories and break the illusion together. Thank you for watching. Be kind to your nervous system today. I'll see you in the next one.